Hi, everyone. Good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you're located in the world. My name is Dynasty Rankin, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys at the Women in Aviation International Virtual Summit. I serve as the STEM Education Manager at the Sullenberger Aviation Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you joined earlier, you may have heard from my colleague Shelby Daines, who is a part of the collections team at the museum, and she highlighted some of the amazing collections and curation that takes place at our museum. And today I'll be sharing more about the educational side and work that we do at the museum and around the Carolinas. A little bit about my background before I begin. My background is in chemistry and education, and today my passion is making sure that young people, especially girls and underrepresented students, see themselves in aviation and in STEM. The presentation that I'm doing today is called Legacy in Practice, Building Equitable Pipelines Through Community Programs. We're going to talk about how museums, in particular our museum, the Sullenberger Aviation Museum, and community partnerships can help close gaps and create real opportunities for students. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide now. So let's start with the big picture. Right now, less than 10% of pilots in the US are women. And when you look across aviation and aerospace careers, engineering, mechanics, leadership, it's clear that the workforce still doesn't reflect the communities we serve. There's a gap there. That means that there are students out there who never even imagine themselves in aviation because they don't see people who look like them in these roles. That's where equity comes in. Equity isn't just about opening the doors, it's about sparking imagination and giving students the access, the awareness, and opportunity to see aviation as their future and to see themselves a part of this field that's so amazing. So, what do we do? How do we approach this? At the Sullenberger Aviation Museum, our mission is to inspire, educate, and engage the next generation in aviation and in STEM. So, here you'll see some pictures of the work we do. These are actual pictures from our museum, some in the makerspace, which is an area where students, and we say students, but we tell everyone that walks in, young and seasoned, that you're all a student of life. So, it's an area where you can be creative, where you can see aviation hands-on by creating things like paper is our biggest tool we use, and cardboard and things of that nature. But it allows them to be creative, do fun things, but also it's an educational moment as well. As you can see, like we talk about reading the runway, for instance. We serve everyone, like I mentioned earlier, from elementary school to high school, exploring careers, and even to adults. We have volunteers, and shout out to our volunteer program and Alana, who's our volunteer manager. And she does a wonderful job at making sure our volunteers show a range of different learners and students of all walks of life. We have volunteers that have been retired professionals, and they share their story with the next generation and help leave that legacy behind so that someone else can be inspired to go after a career that they once had. And also, what makes us unique is that we're not just about airplanes. So, like how I mentioned, the people and the possibility is really what our museum is centered around. We consider ourselves a community connector, sitting at the intersection of history, innovation, and opportunity. So, to highlight this and actually see it in action of what we do, we have a program. It's our flagship program, and it's called the Flight Forward program. Through this program, high school students get to explore aviation careers, connect with mentors and professionals, gain leadership and volunteer experience, and then also build a community of peers who are also passionate and like minded about either aviation or a STEM focused career that they want to see themselves in the future or that they're curious about. We designed the Flight Forward program with equity at the center, and there are no big financial barriers to join at all. We actively partner with industry professionals so students can meet them in real time, and everything is very hands on because, like we mentioned earlier, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So if they can't They can't dream about a career that they've never experienced. So being able to actually meet and talk with these professionals and experience these careers and learn firsthand what these careers involve is really all what we're about with the Flight Forward program. And last year was our first year. I have the privilege of leading this program, and we currently work with one school located here in Charlotte, North Carolina, called West Charlotte High School. And last year, like I said, was our first year, our pilot year, and we had an amazing time. We got to take them out on multiple experiences. Some of my favorite ones were to American Airlines. I actually have family who works for aviation, as far as like working in customer service and customer care, but I've never seen like the background, like going outside of the plane. And of course, I've flown in the plane before, but I've never gotten to see like, walk outside of the plane, see how huge it is outside of our museum, because we of course have aircraft. But being able to see like a live plane that's about to take someone somewhere across the world, and being able to look at the different professionals and what they do on a day-to-day basis. We saw someone refueling the aircraft. We saw what it looks like and how busy it is behind the scenes when they're moving the bags and trying to make sure everyone gets their bag from the plane. It was very exciting, and also a lot of the students, it kind of sparked the curiosity, because a lot of them came in thinking, oh yeah, maybe I want to be a pilot, maybe I want to be a flight attendant or engineer. But when they got to meet and see all these people and how widespread the field of aviation is, it allowed them to be like, wow, maybe I'll go after this career. Or, you know what, I'm actually good at being very hands-on. Maybe I can do this instead. I never even knew about that career. So that's, like I mentioned earlier, that's what we're all about, that hands-on experience, allowing the students to see a career, learn about something that they may have never ever been able to experience, or would have never been able to experience without a program like this, without being a community connector that can connect schools and students to these opportunities. Another thing that we did that some may not think is so much aviation related, but we're also all about the overall picture. We're about the life skills and learning how to be prepared fully as the next generation of professional workers, professional STEM or aviation or whatever they want to do in life. We wanted to equip them with all the tools we possibly could, and using all the connections we could at the museum. So one of the field trips we did, and actually it was in person, they actually came to the school, was we went to Goodwill Industries came to West Charlotte High School, and they did a resume workshop. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of the students didn't know this, but Goodwill in our community in Charlotte, North Carolina, provides a lot of free or very low cost, workshops or training opportunities. And they came to the school and walked step by step with the students on what makes a great resume, what sets you apart from the next person who may be going after the same career or the same, opportunity or internship. How can you be set apart? So the students had a great time with that. They learned so much and had great questions. And in the end, I definitely could tell that they had an aha moment, something clicked where they learned what they could do to set themselves apart in the next, goal of a career after high school. I also want to mention legacy and practice. So when we talk about equity, it's easy to stay, in theory, but for us, it's all about the design and focusing on different principles. So I mentioned earlier how equity can take place due to having that access, free or low cost entry points. We offer this program to the students free at West Charlotte High School. We do have a set number that we can work on, and it's increasing year by year, and we're grateful for that. But having that low cost or very free entry point is very important to us, because we don't want to put any barriers in place for these students. We want them, if they are interested and they are curious about the program or about aviation and STEM, we want to be able to offer them that opportunity. Transportation is worked in connection with the school. So we work always during school hours. We let the teachers know that, hey, maybe once or twice a month, we'll take the students out on a field trip. As long as they're maintaining their grade level in the class, they can go ahead and go on those in-school field trips. We also offer lunch during the program. So that way, if they are missing their lunch period, the food is covered and we offer that. So those basic needs that keep the students from being left out and being able to be a part of the program fully. Representation is also another principle. We intentionally highlight diverse role models. So when students see someone who looks like them, it changes their sense of belonging. So we make sure when we're working, for example, with American Airlines or the CLT, the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, letting them know, hey, can you pull? We have this student who's from this background or who is of this ethnicity. Can you pull someone who looks like them or, has that similar ethnicity and that similar background? Because it definitely can help change that sense of belonging when they see someone who may have a similar story to them or similar background to them. Community is also very important. So we don't design in like a vacuum. We co-create with schools. We make sure that we're collaborating with the school and letting them know what we have going on, collaborating with their families and with their parents, inviting them out. Also collaborating with our partners, like I mentioned, like making sure every connection we have is being put to use and being made possible for these programs to take place. This ensures that our programs don't just look good on paper, but it creates real outcomes and real, measures take place. So instead of me just sharing my point of view, I wanted to highlight some stories that inspire some students that we got to work with over the past year and what some of the things that they say about the program. So Brock Jenkins, who you see here, the first picture, he was a part of our program last year. He graduated in May and he currently is going to school to become a pilot, which is really amazing. And he mentioned this quote that said, "I am blessed to be able to participate. I can make a lasting impact on the aviation community, not only as a good pilot for others, but as an African American man in aviation." And that quote just definitely stands out to me. And I love to share that because it just shows that the words he used, like lasting impact and, not just for himself, but like thinking of how he can go out into the community and how him becoming what he wants to be can lead to other people dreaming and becoming what they want to be as well. We also have a few other, scholars here that we highlighted. One of them actually goes to Elizabeth City State University, which is the only college 4-year degree program that offers an aviation degree. And it's actually a historically Black college and university as well. This young scholar here, Atreyu, he actually came to the museum when we were like first in our beginning stages, and we weren't even called Sullenberger Aviation Museum at that time. We were called Carolina Aviation Museum. But he mentioned this quote that said, I visited the museum as a kid and it inspired me to pursue a career in aviation. I want to provide for other kids what the museum provided for me. That really stands out to me as well because, like I mentioned, it's all about, the next generation feeling inspired and us doing our part in order for them to inspire the ones coming after them. And then we also have Robin here, who I actually got to work with. She was one of our volunteers, and she now is accepted into 3 different aviation programs and goes to Charlotte Engineering Early College. And she mentioned that volunteering at the museum has been such a great experience. Being a part of a space where I feel supported as someone from an underrepresented background has really helped me stay motivated. So these quotes I just wanted to share so you can see the impact from the mouths of the scholars that we currently or in the past have worked with and what our museum does to impact them. Legacy and practice. So I wanted to share this slide so you guys can see that not only does our museum help connect, but you guys also here in the audience have that role of, connecting. And you don't have to wait until you've been in your career for 10 years to make an impact. Every person here has a role in building equitable pipelines. Some of the things you can do is mentor a younger student, advocate for equity in your organization or student chapter, whatever background you're currently in right now or what you're currently doing, making sure you're that advocate for, equity. And most importantly, share your story. I believe Jacqueline, I was looking at the previous panel before my presentation, and Jacqueline mentioned that sharing your story, representation matters more than you realize. When you open the door for just one student, you're clearing the runway for generations after them to come. And it's very, very important. All right. And before I end, I just wanted to mention that legacy isn't just something we look back on, it's something we build every day through practice. And together, like I mentioned on the last slide, we can create those pathways where every student can see themselves in aviation. If you'd like to connect with me or our museum, feel free to reach out via the links on the screen. Sorry, it's not a QR code, but you can definitely take a picture of this and feel free to connect to us. We'd love to share and talk more about ways we can collaborate. And I thank you guys so much for your time and for being a part of this work. And I'm excited to continue this conversation and hear your questions if you'd like to connect with me. I do want to go to the one last slide I have before we open up to questions. I want to pose back to you guys the questions the topics I've been talking about. So if you'd love to answer any of these questions, I'd love to hear from you. The first one I have on screen is, what barriers do you see for women currently entering aviation today? And then the second question I have is, what would have helped you feel more prepared for a career in aviation or STEM if you are a professional who's currently in that field? And I'll give it a couple minutes. And then if you have a question that's not on here as well, I definitely am leaving it open to questions or any thing you want to share or talk with me about in my last few minutes.
All right, so I'll moderate a little bit here. I don't see anything yet in the Q&A, but in the chat, Shelby brought up barriers for women, unconscious versus conscious bias in interviews.
Mm.
Also, what is the most impactful programming the museum participates in with children, in your opinion?
Okay. The most impactful program, I would definitely say the Flight Forward program. That's, like I mentioned earlier, our flagship program that we have. But we also have other programs as well. We do field trips throughout the summer. We had camps, but some other special programs we have. One that we're doing currently next week, I'm helping to start coordinating or finish, the coordination of. It's called Aerotech Explorers, and we collaborate with Bank of America here in Charlotte. They're one of our biggest banks and are one of our biggest partners. And they actually talk about technology and how, technology is, shaping our world today. And we created a program where we highlight aviation and aerospace uh, technology careers. So we specifically talk about technology and aviation hand in hand. And the students get to walk around our gallery, learn about different or answer different questions centered around aviation and technology, and also discover some history involving aviation and technology. And then they get to come into a workshop and do a hands-on building experience where they use sustainable products, but they also have to add in some type of invention, some technology piece towards their build that they'll be making. And also answer the question of, like, what do you want the power to do in the future? Because that's what Bank of America is all about, talking about the power to do things. So that's one of the programs that I really love that we do with students. And currently we're doing it with middle school students. Good question. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions to the floor before we go to a quick break and then bring on our last panel for the day? Anybody else? All right. So thank you so much, Dynasty, for. Oh, hold on. We got one more question. What part of your exhibits or programming is most interesting to children?
What part of our exhibits and programs most interesting to students or children? I would definitely say the students love to be hands-on. So I mentioned how we focus on hands-on learning at the museum. So the makerspace is a big one. A lot of that's why a lot of people when they pass by that area in our museum, they're like, "Oh, is this just the kids' space, the children's space?" But we're like, "No, it's for everyone." But it can feel like that because it gets them so excited to actually be able to go into the museum, see all the planes, get inspired, listen to all the stories and read all the stories, and then come into a space where they can put that inspiration to work and actually make things and create things that they just saw or that inspired them to think of something different that's never been done before. So I love that our museum has that space. Thank you, Shelby. And then I saw a comment earlier from, I think it was during my talk. I'm not completely sure, but she talked about like discovery flight lessons, things like that. And we do get to take, I forgot to mention earlier, we take the flight forward students on discovery flights as a part of the program. And it's really amazing because some of the students may have never flown in a plane before, but their first experience will be actually to like fly a plane. They may have never been in like a big commercial plane to go anywhere yet, but they get to fly like around the city in like a two-seater plane. So that's one of my favorite things that we do in the Flight Forward program as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go, as I said, to a quick break, and then we'll be back with our last panel of the day from Denver International Airport on the Center for Equity and Excellence in Aviation. So stick around, guys, grab a drink, a snack, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Have a good one. Bye, guys.